Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Osborne, and I serve as the coordinator for Fraternity and Sorority Life in the Office of Student Involvement here at DePaul. We are back with another episode of our 90 Stories for 90 Years. This is our campaign to tell the stories of our fraternity and sorority community members, alumni, faculty, staff, current undergraduate students, pretty much everyone who's had an impact on our fraternity and sorority community. We're excited to have Alex with us today. Thanks so much for joining us. If you don't mind, maybe going ahead and getting started by telling us a little bit about you, name, degrees, hometown, chapter affiliation, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mary. Hi, guys. My name is Alex Nguyen. I graduated DePaul with a mathematical science degree. I'm from St. Charles, Illinois, so that's a suburb about an hour west of Chicago. And I am part of the Lambda Pi Epsilon International Fraternity chapter at DePaul.
Yeah, and a founding member of the chapter at DePaul too. So
yes.
Excited to have you on. Well, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to since you graduated.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, it's been a pretty short journey. After graduating, I had to just kind of take a break from life. I focused on some family stuff, but since coming back, I actually got a job at DePaul. My first job was being a part-time assistant at the student financial accounts department, but since then, I've actually moved to DePaul Central as an intake specialist. There, I kind of talk about financial aid, tuition billing, pretty much all that business stuff with students. And not gonna lie, I actually like the role, mostly because I get to interact with students again, but also it's just you always hear about the academic side, you always hear about student involvement, but it's really hard to have that conversation with about the business end of things. Financial aid, tuition is really hard to talk about. So just being able to assist students and navigate that part of college life is honestly pretty fulfilling.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us. So how did your experience in Lambda Phi Epsilon help you reach where you are now in your career, or does it have any impact on like where you think you want to go from here?
Yeah, honestly, I think it has pretty much it's the reason why I'm back at DePaul. So as I already said, I graduated with a mathematical science degree. But obviously being at DePaul, seems like it has nothing to do with each other. And that's because, being a part of Lambda Pi Epsilon, since I graduated, I also volunteered for a little bit on our international board. And there I just met with so many people so many brothers that, were generations ahead of me, some that even graduated after me. And, just kind of seeing their points of view in their life and why they're still involved in Lambda Phi Epsilon. It kind of made me realize, I actually did enjoy being a part of the higher education aspect and that industry. So, being back at DePaul, I'm hoping to eventually go back to graduate school for higher education leadership. So we'll see.
Well, hey, welcome to the field a little bit early. We're excited to have you. So you obviously have volunteered on your national board, but now you're also working with the chapter here at DePaul. So tell us a little bit about how you decided to be an advisor. What did that path look like? What are you enjoying about that experience now?
Yeah, so out of all my brothers in my class, the founding class, I was the oldest one and therefore one of the people who graduated first. Being kind of away from them and working internationally, I kind of learned a lot of things that I wasn't able to incorporate into my own chapter. So now that I'm back at DePaul and I can actually not just be involved, virtually, but now physically. Well, not physically anymore because what's happening. But I could actually be in direct involvement with them. I'm starting to see that not only are these guys still building upon successes that my founding class has done, but I feel like I can help them evolve the chapter into something even more and kind of give them that experience to not only reach farther heights that I couldn't have when I was inactive, but also develop better skills, more skills, so that they can later on use that in their own lives. The ultimate goal here is really just to make sure that they're prepared postgraduate, and making sure that they are able to use the skills that they've learned in the chapter later in life. So, and that's kind of why I wanted to come back and advise for them.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all that. That is probably one of my favorite parts about working in fraternity and sorority life is helping students develop skills that will be beneficial for them after they graduate. And it's really cool to watch from the time that they start in the chapter until the time that they graduate, if you're fortunate enough to like spend that much time with them and kind of see how they like learn and grow and develop and all of that. So I definitely feel you on that part. So kind of you obviously want to be that person for some of the current undergraduate members, but who is a brother or a member, potentially an advisor, that has made an impact on your time in Lambda Pi Epsilon, and tell us a little bit about why.
Oh man, I could probably talk your ear off about so many brothers, but I don't want to take too much of your time. And one specific person that really does sticks out to me is actually one of my class brothers. His name is Brian Van. He actually helped find a chapter with me. I think he was the person who started it all when we started that process of having Lambda Pi Epsilon come to DePaul University, and kind of seeing how he's navigated from 2014 and navigated his active life all the way until he graduated volunteering, and we both started volunteering for the international board together. But ever since, even if I dropped out, he still kept going, and now he's part of the board of directors. And that's probably the highest tier that you can be a part of in the international board. And kind of seeing how he's so passionate about the things that he does. It's not just about Greek life to him. It's just about doing the things that he's comfortable with, that he's passionate with, and really being able to put everything, his whole entire soul and being to it. I think that's the thing that really inspires me to, just follow my own passions, and kind of just branch out of my own comfort zone for that matter. So I think that's why, I did want to come back. I do want to pursue the career that I'm going into, and I really do enjoy talking with him. I think he and I talk pretty much like daily about things, and just kind of sharing our experiences with each other. And like I said, even though we're about the same age, he still kind of acts as that role model for me.
Yeah, that's so cool. How neat of a story to hear how you all both ended up volunteering for the national organization, and now he's on the national board and you're advising, and you all are both still so integrated into Lambda Pi Epsilon and all of both the chapter functions and the national functions. That's such a cool story to hear how you all kind of like grew up, so to speak, in Lambda Pi Epsilon together. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
No problem.
What are some of the lessons that you've learned from being a member of your organization? I'm sure we all have like things that carry with us to this day, but what were some of those for you?
Honestly, it's probably just really literal learning, like, those soft skills. Being a part of Lambda Pi Epsilon wasn't my only focus in school. I was also part of the Asian Cultural Exchange Organization, and I was also part of their e-board. I was, being a full-time undergraduate student, and I was also, I had jobs and internships at the same time. And being able to take upon these roles really did teach me how to, teach me time management, how to figure out strategies on how to navigate my own life, balancing life and work, being able to, set those priorities. And it wasn't just Lambda Epsilon that taught me that. It was just all the brothers who I worked with. They kind of gave me those tips and all that. And another lesson that I really like to talk about is just my ability to learn to be vulnerable, or kind of be able to communicate with other people. I was pretty reserved back when I first joined, but meeting with a lot of brothers, I kind of just you get to meet so many people, when you join the FSL community, that like you kind of learn. You got to meet and experience other people from different backgrounds, whether that's culturally, whether that's geographically, and you just learn to become open-minded. And I think that's kind of what like Lambda Pi Epsilon kind of helped me have that culture shock, where like, wow, there's so many different people in the world, and I need to be more open-minded so that I can learn to connect to these guys. And part of that was just learning how to communicate with them and kind of just building relationships.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that you talked about vulnerability and how they like kind of helped you understand how to communicate with people, but how to, kind of like share parts of yourself that maybe you haven't always been so like open with. I love that kind of aspect of brotherhood. So tell me a little bit more about what brotherhood means to you as a member of Lambda Pi Epsilon.
I think Honestly, it's just brotherhood just means being a part of a family, and I'm sure all organizations in the FSL community can relate to that. Especially in the MGC community, a lot of our organizations are typically smaller. I think for Lambda Pi Epsilon, this is probably one of the biggest houses that we've had this year, which is about 20 guys. And back when I founded it was just the seven of us. And so when it's just that many people, it just means that we have to work that much harder and learn to appreciate each other more, and really have that unconditional love for each other, and that attitude towards each other kind of just extends way past just the brotherhood. To me, it extends past my lineage. I have my big bro who came from Cornell. I have and then I have different little bros who attend different universities. I have a little bro from Connecticut, one from Wisconsin Madison, and it's just being able to share that attitude where we're not just here to run an organization. We're here as a family to learn to love each other, to learn to be authentic with each other, and I think that's what brotherhood means to me. It's just being able to know that the guy that I'm brothers with has my back, just because we have that commonality of being a part of Lambda Phi Epsilon. So
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, so I know this isn't a question you were probably prepared for, but you did talk a little bit about this in your answer. So to see the chapter grow from the first 7 guys, whenever you all were starting this thing, to where the chapter is now, what are you most proud of with the way the chapter has grown and evolved?
not to rag on the guys, but I always like to tell them, like, if it's anything that we get right, it's the fact that we have brotherhood. Like it's like the fact that we are so easily able to accept anyone who comes into our chapter, not just new members from DePaul, but also brothers who are visiting from other schools out of state, brothers who just initiated from other chapters and just want to explore. We are able to just welcome them to Chicago, show them around, and I think that's the thing that I'm most proud of when it comes to my chapter, because we have our barriers are just broken down so easily. And I think when it came to how me and the founding class interacted with each other, there's literally no boundaries with each other. We were able to talk, we were able to work with each other, and just show that love. That you can definitely see how that has communicated throughout the generations, and seeing that it's not because we were just a small group of guys that did it. Like now that 20 guys are doing it with each other and they work very cohesively, like I think coming back a few years later and advising them and seeing them like in this position is just kind of like, wow, nothing really has changed, relationship wise, and it really makes me as an alum, um, just my heart's warm because of that.
Yeah. And that's a really hard part of the fraternity and sorority experience to keep. I think in many chapters struggle with that as they grow, to keep that intimate relationship with each other. The larger their chapter gets, I did some like a sorority expansion work whenever I was working for my national sorority, and I think that that's one thing that's a hurdle we always talked about, is when you get to this certain size or a certain point, like it's really hard to keep those relationships as tight and as intimate as they were when you started an organization. So I can only imagine how wonderful that must be to come back and still see the guys as close as they are now. And I know, talking with Brendan, the current chapter president, like I really feel that sense of brotherhood still too within the chapter.
I think it's super interesting to hear whenever, especially when I was on an international board at for Lambda Pi Epsilon. I would hear some stories when I was working with other chapters. They would say, oh, I've actually met a DePaul bro, and those guys are super cool, and they would just give me all these stories about actives that I used to work with, and then like some newer bros that I haven't even met, and saying like, oh, you can definitely feel like this is the relationship that these guys have, and those are things that I want to bring back to my own chapter, and I just think that's phenomenal. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. Well, this is our final question for the day. So tell us, what is your favorite memory of being a member of your organization?
So it was actually when my first year when I joined the board with Brian. So every single year we have this sort of orientation, or what we call leadership summit, and all the old returning board members and the new incoming guys come together to one meeting, and we just have this orientation with each other. The year that I was joining, we held the orientation at Washington D.C., and Brian and I were just kind of like, you know what, let's just go like a couple days early. Uh, he and I have never been to DC, and I knew that my grandbig actually lived there with a couple other bros. So I was just like, yeah, like I could hit him up, see if we could just stay at his place before the hotel opened up, and then we'll just uh, explore DC. And we flew over there. I haven't seen my grandbig since in over like a year at that point. So seeing him was really cool. And then the next day he made breakfast, and then he just was like, all right, like go explore. And we just went went crazy with it. We went to the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Memorial. We went to like all the museums that happened around that campus. And even though it was like raining and soaking, like Brian and I were just trying to make the best of it, just going to every single little thing before we had to go meet for that orientation. And then on top of that, like meeting the guys, the new guys and the older guys on the international board, like you just kind of really sense that everyone was still super ecstatic about being a part of FSL, and it just kind of made the entire weekend like just like surreal. Like this was all worth it.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, I have all the like warm fuzzies right now. Well, Alex, thank you again so much for sharing with us today. We really have loved having you on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, this is going to wrap up our interview for today, but we still have plenty more. Remember, we have 90 throughout this entire academic year, so make sure that you check back and keep an eye out for our upcoming interviews. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.